So, the project that I'm working on is around Jeff Healey. And I thought it'd be great just to catch up with you about some of the things that you mentioned in your book as well, and just get some of your recollections, if that's okay.
Yeah, certainly.
Great. Well, I've been lucky to speak to a few people from Arista history. Mitchell Cohen answered some questions for me, and I spoke to Roy Lott and Sean Coakley and Tom Ennis and people like that.
Well, you got the right people. They were the ones.
Yeah. And they all had their own kind of recollections of the Healey band. I wondered, what are your memories or first impressions of the band?
Well, what was very, very impressive was Jeff Healey. I remember, first seeing the band, and Jeff was a dazzling virtuoso of the guitar, and he did play unorthodoxly, I think because of his loss of sight. But whatever he did, whether he played sitting down with the guitar across his lap or when he stood up, with emotion and animation and certainly intensity, he was really, to me, in the line of virtuoso guitarists that I had been attracted to over the years. I did feel that with his potential stardom, that I agreed with Mitchell Cohen, who was the primary A&R man here, to sign the group.
Yeah, and I guess the visual aspect of what he did must have been a huge component in that, mustn't it?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Just saying the visual spectacle of how he played must have been a big motivating factor in deciding to sign the band.
I think the big motivating factor was his guitar virtuosity, more so than the uniqueness. I mean, I think that was a factor, but if he was not a guitar virtuoso, I certainly would not have signed him just because of the way he played.
Right. And I believe you said that Elektra were interested in the band at the time?
Say that again?
I believe you said that Elektra were interested in signing the band at the time? Do you recall?
I believe that to be the case. I believe that to be the case. But you don't sign artists because of who's competing with you. Who's competing with you was merely a fact. I mean,
right.
Our interest was not there because another label. I'm just hastening to say that's just a fact that I think was true. But based on the initial recommendation of Mitchell Cohen, we did, fly the band in from Toronto to audition them, and we were very impressed. Very, very impressed with Jeff and his guitar virtuosity.
Yeah. And I think Arista's ability to find good songs for the band was really important too, wasn't it? You found those two John Hyatt songs, Angel Eyes and Confidence Man.
I mean, normally you don't look. You hope that a rock band has their own material. Certainly, every artist that I personally have been involved with historically, whether it was Aerosmith, whether it was An Earth, Wind and Fire, whether it was Patti Smith or the Outlaws, they came with their own material. Here, there was not the self-contained material coming from the group, where you knew that you were dealing with a totally self-contained artist. But as I said in my book, with the great Eric Clapton, it was not a drawback that he used outside material, so that whether it was I Shot the Sheriff or After Midnight or Cocaine or what have you, he made the song his own, so that in this particular case, that we did feel that Mitchell Cohen and our A&R staff we would all try to pitch in to supplement what Jeff Healey and his band were writing, to give him an arsenal to break through beyond his guitar virtuosity. So it was Mitchell Cohen, I know, who brought to the table those two songs from John Hyatt, that really, with that first album, See the Light, that really caused a breakthrough. You get attention, and obviously not as a gimmick. I would never have signed him just because he was blind or played the guitar difficulty. What was important was that in spite of any other handicap, he was so steeped beautifully in the blues and was so impressive with his virtuosity, that we felt good about him. And but it was the John Hyatt material here, of Confidence Man and Angel Eyes. One became a rock track for rock credibility for them, which was Confidence Man, and then Angel Eyes really became a big hit record pop-wise for them. So those were the two cuts, coupled with him building a following based on how special he was as a blues guitarist, and that album went platinum.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really struck by the space that you devoted to the band in your book. I got the sense that there was a mix of sort of genuine affection for Jeff's talent and a little bit of frustration there as well, or a bit of kind of wistfulness about what might have been.
I think you correctly just said it. I mean, there was definite both admiration and respect. The unique quality was him. And his, I know I'm repeating it, not trying to vary the word, and his virtuosity, and, undoubtedly some inspiration from the fact that he was not impeded by his physical health handicap. But with the attention and with the right material, he was enjoying, very strong, noteworthy success. I mean, any first album going platinum, that's big news. And and then, he was cast in the Roadhouse film.
Yeah.
And that built a fan following for him. as an artist. The frustration came from as we continued to work with him on his second album, he became very intent on only recording their own material. And their own material was mediocre. And, you know, it was not above average. And I think that, you know, obviously with his increased visibility and success, he was able, you know, on that second album, to have George Harrison agree to appear on the album in connection with a cover of "While My Guitar Gently Weeps."
That's right.
And he was open to accepting a Dire Straits Mark Knopfler song.
Yeah.
But look, material is so key. I mean, Patti Smith is wonderful, a Renaissance woman in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But there's no question, you know, that she supplemented and had the good sense with the, you know, where needed to that one track by Bruce Springsteen, you know, and helped her, so that I think the adamant position by Jeff regarding material was frustrating, because here he had broken, was well known, building a following, but without special tracks to break through, the artist doesn't fulfill their potential.
I mean, I could tell that, I mean, with the first album and Roadhouse, that was an incredible bit of synergy that you kind of orchestrated there, wasn't it? The fact that they both happened around the same time. And then, as you say, the second album, I think that was the one that reached me growing up first, because, you know, I was around a teenager when that arrived, living in Liverpool in the UK. And I was struck by that album and the fact that they had the Mark Knopfler song on it. And as you say, George Harrison and Jeff Lynne appeared on it as well. So it seemed like you were going all out to really try and top the success of the first album. But I don't think it quite achieved that, did it?
No, look, it was a gold album, but it certainly, which is noteworthy, and he was benefiting from the momentum and the fans he had built up. But look, an album's sales are greatly dependent on what material emerges as a hit. And although in the rock area, what we call album-oriented rock AOR play, you know, he did get play on both the Dire Straits and the While My Guitar Gently Weeps cut. But there was nothing of his material that emerged. And so it was, look, a good, successful album. A gold album is nothing to be discounted. But he was not achieving his potential because the material that they wrote were mediocre.
Right. And I wondered, were there any attempts made to kind of highlight Jeff separate from the band at all? Because I know he sort of sat in with people like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Clapton and held his own.
I don't recall any effort to separate him from the band.
Right.
Yeah, I know that.
I remember seeing a great performance that he gave on a show called Night Music, the one that David Sanborn and Jules Holland used to present. And he was backed by Marcus Miller on bass and Omar Hakim on drums, and I think Dr. John was playing piano. And I just remember thinking, wow, there's a moment of sort of potential there that you hadn't previously seen with the other lineup, you know?
Well, there's no question that the talent that Jeff had, and as a musician, far exceeded that of anybody in the band, and he was special.
Mm. And so, when it came to the end of the Healy Band career with Arista, was that just a case of diminishing returns by the end of sort of 4 albums together?
It was certainly a case where the subsequent albums did not fulfill all the potential that the group had. And it was, I think, really a misjudgment on their part as to the quality of the material they were coming up with.
Right. And I suppose by that period, the early 90s, guitar heroes or guitar slingers were kind of less in vogue then as well, weren't they? So it wasn't really a bad run to have gotten through 4 decent albums.
Well, you couldn't get by merely on the strength of guitar virtuosity. You needed more. You needed material to get played in an important way on radio, which is itself all important. And, this was something, over the years of my career, having been with Johnny Winter or Michael Bloomfield, and of course Carlos Santana.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Carlos sold great when he broke through with Oya Kamaba and Black Magic Woman and Evil Ways, and then he went through many, many years, with certainly his virtuosity intact, but no cuts intact. And then I reunited with him in the late 90s. And, with Smooth and with Maria Maria, he went back to being a huge, huge, huge seller.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't suppose you recall any incidents in which you guys recommended songs to the band that they refused to record, or songs that went on to be hits for other artists or anything like that?
I would defer to Mitchell Cohen there as to the specifics of that.
Right. And just a couple more things, if you don't mind. On a social level, did you get to know Jeff as a person much? I mean, he had a lot of other interests in jazz and record collecting and all those sorts of things.
I never, got to spend that much time outside of that. There was warmth, there was affection, there was respect. I had that for him.
Mm-hmm.
And, but with him not living in New York, and there wasn't that kind of individual connection that grew outside of the professional.
Right. Okay. Well, is there anything else that comes to mind about Jeff and his career at all that we haven't touched on?
No, I do think we touched on anything that I could contribute to it. And I wish you the best of luck with your article. And I could tell you're well versed and you were a fan. And
yeah, I first saw him when he played when I was about 13. I think he came to Liverpool and performed, and ever since then, I thought, well, this guy is a special player. And when I became an academic and a researcher, I decided to focus some time on developing a book here around him. So it's
well, good luck with it. I mean, I still have a so tragic his early demise, and
yeah,
the guy was special, and I'm glad that you were into him and recognized how special indeed he was.
Thank you. That's great.
Good luck with your project.
Oh, thanks, Clive. I really appreciate your time. It's a real privilege. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You too.